Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mavani. Today is 27th December. Let's have a positive start first to change your thoughts and you change your world. A couple of days ago, we were talking about seeds. Remember that thoughts are like our seeds. So if we have good quality seeds, then of course we are going to get a good quality fruit from a big tree, isn't it? With this, dear friends, you know that Christmas sales were on and we got a huge amount of requests from various different students around various different parts of our country. So we have decided to carry on this huge discount till the end of this year, that is 31st December. So year-end sale is on, and now we are getting various different discounts on different pen drive and tablet courses. All important information again on studyiq.com. If you have any question or queries, feel free and give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. Now, dear friends, today I have to announce a very important, you can say, notice or a very important thing with you guys. So we'll do it at the end of this discussion, but it's very important. But before that, let's quickly go through some important articles that we can see on our screen. Now, the first one that we are going to go through is this one, being a good neighbor. On your screen, you have this region, and I'm sure regular students, you know that this is South Asia. This is also known as, or you have this regional group called SAARC, that stands for South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. You have 8 countries in South Asia or in SAARC group. Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal. Number 5 is Bhutan. Number 6 is Bangladesh. Number 7 is Sri Lanka. And number 8 is Maldives. Out of these 8 countries, 2 countries are island nations. One is Maldives and the second one is Sri Lanka. Of course, 3 are landlocked. Nepal, Bhutan, Afghanistan. India is the only country that is sharing its border with Arabian Sea as well as Bay of Bengal, or else Bangladesh is just sharing its border with this Bay of Bengal, and Pakistan is having its shores are washed by Arabian Sea water. So these are a few basic geographical details about this region. Now let's talk about this being a good neighbor. This article is predominantly talking about do's and don'ts. What are the things that we need to do and what are the things that we should restrain ourselves from. Now, successive regimes have considered the neighborhood as an irritant and challenge, not an opportunity, and that's the biggest problem with our foreign policy. Remember when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was going through his swearing-in ceremony? At that point of time, he invited SAARC leaders to be present there, and we saw this Nawaz Sharif, who was then Prime Minister of Pakistan. He was also present during this Narendra Modi's swearing-in ceremony, and at that point of time, it was, we were quite optimistic. It was looking like things will change forever as far as India and Pakistan's relationship is concerned. But what we find now is that things are at its, when it comes to relationship, we are not having that cordial relationship. We were never having that good relationship. But Mr. Modi's tenure was, there was a positive vibe in Pakistan and over this side as well. But now those things are gone. Now again, there was for time being a small sort of vibe in Pakistan because of this election, but now it looks like every time you see this sort of positive vibe during election time, and then things are back to normal or as it is, as usual. Now, I'm not just blaming Narendra Modi government, but it's not just a Namo government, it's also successive regimes that we have to focus on, right? So something similar happened in UPA government too. At present, we have NDA government. Something similar is going on. First, we feel like things are going to be good, but then we find out that we are, conducting mistakes again and again. Like if we talk about recent past, see this, our interference in this constitution-making process that was going on in Nepal. Then we were trying to influence these outcomes in Sri Lanka. Rohingya question. We were not, we should have behaved like a big brother with Myanmar, but we did not. And with Bangladesh, at present Bangladesh is supporting some 10 lakh plus Rohingyas are there in this Cox's Bazar region. and we kept silent. We were not, Sheikh Hasina's government was expecting a support from us, but we were quiet. We were not speaking anything. And now, of course, after that, after this displeasure that was expressed by Sheikh Hasina and her government, after that we became a bit active, but we were a bit late because China was already there before us. China also started, this process of working as a sort of umpire, or a party that is trying to create a compromise between Bangladesh and Myanmar. So we were a bit late here in this case, and we were clueless what was going on in Maldives. But now we see a positive change in our neighborhood area. Like in Maldives, we have a new government. In Rohingya case is a bit quiet now. We started supporting it. Nepal as well is a bit friendly now, but we have created a bit of damage. Stains are already there. We have created those psychological scars. And now we have to behave a bit more diplomatically. Our past mistakes means, I'm not saying that we will never conduct any mistake, or we should not. That's practically impossible. But consistently, if we are having a negative approach, if we are taking this neighborhood as an irritant and challenge rather than an opportunity, then this is what we get. So the good news that we are finding now, this new government in Nepal is okay with India now, and other countries like in Sri Lanka as well. This triangle that was going on now, it looks like things are getting there slowly in Sri Lanka too. So all these things are taking place not because we have done something. We should have done something, but we haven't done anything. Whatever we find there, it's a natural course. So we should not be that much happy about this thing. At least the good news is that things are in our favor. There is an opportunity out there if we know how to utilize it. So there are a few things that we should never do. There are some don'ts that we have to follow. Like we should understand this thing that small countries, right? Those days are gone when you can force a small country and you can ask them to do what you want them to do. But now you have to persuade them, right? Now you have to work very softly with them. You should never do anything that will, that will create this impression that we are trying to dominate them, or we are trying to dominate or we are trying to colonize them. So this is something that we have to understand, and we have to make sure that we stand, behind them. We support them whenever they are in need of a support, but we should not try to interfere with their constitutional process or domestic political process and things like that. So meddling in domestic politics of neighbor countries is a recipe for disaster, because today you are supporting Mr. A, tomorrow you'll find Mr. B, you're supporting Mr. A and opposing Mr. B, but tomorrow Mr. B can be in power and then your relationship is gone, so we don't want this sort of situation. We should, if we are promising something, then we have to make sure that we deliver that thing. If we are talking about projects and this and that, but if we are not delivering it, then we'll lose that trust. Trust is one of the most important thing, and there is no point of competing with China. We cannot compete with China, practically speaking, when it comes to throwing money, when it comes to deep pockets, when it comes to infrastructure creation, because we are not having that much money and we don't have this expertise of completing projects on time, just like China. So what we can focus on is a thing that we have discussed just a couple of days ago, is soft power. Soft power is our strength, and we should focus on soft power rather than competing with China. In fact, what we can do is, there are so many points like convergence points where we can meet each other and we can work together, like counter-terrorism, regional trade, infrastructure development. We can work with China because China is facing the same problem. When it comes to infrastructure, if China is creating non-military infrastructure, then this is going to help India too. So we should merge or form a partnership, a cordial relationship with, in third country with China is not bad. It's going to be helpful for the whole region. And this region here, right, this is one of the most, you can say, less integrated region economically, or in terms of, partnership. You find a bilateral relationship more rather than multilateral relationship. So bilateral relationship they have their own limits. A multilateral relationship is a bit on top of bilateral, because bilaterals you have a limit, but multilateral it can create more, you can say, opportunities. So we need to focus on bilateral or multilateral relationship in this stuff. But for that, you have to develop economic linkages, because we have a very weak economic linkages here between various different countries of this region. And let us take example of China and India. We know we have this line of actual control and this land or border issue going on between India and China. But then as well, we are dependent on each other for economic and financial and bilateral and other things, trade and investment. Because our investment is so high in trade and this investment area, that we cannot afford to have a fight, and we cannot afford to we cannot allow this LSE or this border issue to sabotage this trade relationship or bilateral relationship. And this is something that we can create here. If we can do something like that, if we can develop economic linkages, then we can think about this SAFTA, that is South Asian Free Trade Area. And India can allow border states, because you can see the location of our country here. There are few states of our country, they are sharing border with Pakistan, with Nepal, with Bhutan, with Bangladesh and other countries. So like Tamil Nadu and Kerala with Maldives, and Tamil Nadu with Sri Lanka. So if we allow our states, those states that are sharing border with different countries, if we allow them to engage with these countries on their individual capacity, based on culture, based on items that are necessary for them, then we can create more opportunities, and we can create this economic linkages. We can at least develop a good solid base for future relationship. So that's the thing. And last item, last but not the least, that India is one of the biggest country in this region, right? And it is considered as a big brother, so it is our responsibility to take this initiative. Now, moving on to next item, it is about no lessons learned. And yes, we are not very good in learning lessons, because we find this sort of tragedies taking place in our country again and again here. This editorial is associated with this 13th December's tragedy that took place in San, that is in Meghalaya's Jaintia Hills district. So you have these three hills. You have Garo Hills, you have Khasi Hills, and then you have Jaintia Hills. All these three hills are part of this Meghalaya. They are most important hills, and now today they are in, from last few days, they are in international level news. So you can expect a question in your prelims or MCQ based question on these hills, right? On tribal people living in this region, history of this region. You can also be asked questions based on geography, like Meghalaya, Cherrapunji is a place where you find highest amount of rainfall in the world. So what's the role of these hills, or Bay of Bengal and winds and things like that? So you need to prepare this topic, these hills, from various different angles. It will not take more than an hour or 2 hours for you guys, right, to go through it. So go through your NCERTs and locate this region. And I'm not saying that you need to do it in one go. When you're studying Himalayan ranges, you will come across this region. Then take a couple of points from here. Then when you are studying this wind pattern and how rainfall forms and etc., right, the winter rainfall and summer rainfall and things, then you will come across this wind pattern in Bay of Bengal. So mix and match, and then you will get a good idea about this Meghalaya and this Garo, Khasi and Jaintia hills. And when you're studying this earthquakes and plates and things, then you will study about this formation of this region. Right, so enough said about preparation tips and tricks. Now, I have one infographic for you guys. It is published in today's The Hindu newspaper. So the cause of the accident is this water from Litane River. A gust in, cutting off access to the mine and flooding it. 100 plus person are there trying to rescue this 13 miners. And the problem is they are stuck in this rat holes. And the big problem is that we are not paying any attention. We are ignorant when it comes to health and safety. This is not the first time, as we know. We have discussed about the accidents. We have talked about a stampede. We have talked about ruckus and so many other various different ways through which we find, that people are dying in our country. A couple of days ago, we were talking about hospitals, remember? So here you find this Dhanbad back in 1975, 370 people died in this mines, and National Green Tribunal has completely prohibited mining activities in this area, this particular mine from since 2014, but still it's going on. So that means illegal mining is something that is rampant in Meghalaya. And the question is it just in Meghalaya? No, it's each and every state of our country. You find some sort of illegal mining, sand mining, and land mafias are there, sand mafias are there. So you have this sort of gangs operating in various different parts of our country, and within a state as well. You have various different regions where you, like, few weeks ago this thing was reported. I think it's been 2 months or something. It was reported in news that some 20%, 20 to 25% of this Aravalli Hills, they are gone. Can you believe this thing? Aravalli Hills, we are talking about hills, are vanishing because they are mined illegally. Illegal mining was going on for a very long period of time now, and government officials, they are aware about it, but then you have this big chain of corruption, right? Everyone gets a bite. So they distribute this money that they make out of this destruction of natural items, and in their greed you find that poor people, all right, they have no option, but they have to take all the risks to feed their family, and then they have to work in this rat holes, and this is the thing that we find. So it's an eye-opener, but this is not the first slap. We have been slapped many times, but we are not ready to change ourselves, and the only way we can change this situation is to create proper opportunities, right? And see, this is how corruption is bad. It will destroy so many families. People who are taking money, they feel like they are just taking money from nowadays you find this sort of ideology that taking money from rich people is not bad. But the thing is, you are taking money from rich people, and I'm not saying every rich person is engaged in this thing, but there are few rich guys out there. They are doing this sort of illegal things, and when you're taking money, then you're allowing them to do what they are doing, and then you find people working for them are poor people, and they are the ones who will die. So you see the big ripple effect. Moving on to next item, winter bear hug. This is about Mr. Trump. It's about economy of USA. It's not performing that well at present. More not economy, but I would say stock market. And we'll be very quick here in this discussion. Like, Mr. Trump has always projected this stock market's performance as a gauge, as a meter to display that in his tenure this US economy is performing very well. Now, stock market suffered. It went down 3% on Christmas Eve, and one of the main reasons is this plunge protection team, which is formerly known as President's Working Group on Financial Markets. So this plunge protection team had a meeting in recent past, and last meeting when they had was in 2008. At that point of time, USA was suffering from this financial crisis. So people took it as this plunge protection team meeting as financial something, possible trouble brewing within the financial system, and this is the reason that has created a sort of panic in the market, and now people are a bit afraid, and market works on sentiments as well. So that's one of the reason why this market has gone down. Now, Federal Reserve and other major Western central banks have been keen on tightening monetary policy. We have talked about this tool called monetary policy, how they tighten it by increasing interest rate, and how they are doing it incrementally, step by step. They are increasing interest rate. Now, Mr. Trump is arguing that your inflation is under your target. It is quite safe. Federal Reserve's target for inflation is 2%, below 2%, and at present inflation in USA is comfortable below 2%. So Mr. Trump is a bit public. He is in public space. He is criticizing Federal Reserve Chairman, and that is something that we find quite common, right? But it's being a bit more aggressive, and that has created again pushed this negative sentiments. Because we have talked about this thing. Remember that politicians, they would like to see, the government would like to see loans available at cheaper rate, but banks or central bankers, they have to maintain a sort of more pragmatic, or they have to calculate all these risks, and they have to keep an eye on inflation as well. So many times they increase interest rates and government will be expecting decrease in interest rate. So this is how it goes, and we find this sort of clashes, which is quite common. But this is a sort of a quick bird's eye view over what's going on in USA as far as this financial market is concerned. Now, talking about abandoned on the battlefield, this one is an easy to understand article. The reason why I'm saying this is easy to understand is because we have talked about Kurdish people. You know the history of Kurdish people now, isn't it? You know that they played a very important role back in 2014 when the USA started bombing ISIS, or this Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. At that point of time, USA failed, right? It was not able to pinpoint all those ISIS people who were there operating on the battlefield or on the ground. So this ISIS are, again, they are not Kurdish people, right? So Kurdish people are different people. ISIS is a different group. So ISIS was trying to destroy Kurdish people as well. And you know, this year there was this lady, Nadia Murad. She got this Nobel Prize, and she is a Kurd. So they suffered from, you know, Kurdish people. They've been this, like, ISIS have been very brutal on them. So Kurdish people started using force against them, and then USA realized that they are, you know, good fighters, and they know the region very well. They can work as a foot soldier, and USA has to provide them support. So USA was providing them military support, weapons and other things, and commandos were sent there to train these people and to advise these Kurds and how to sort out this ISIS. And finally, in a nutshell, they managed to succeed against this ISIS. And in recent past, we know that Mr. Trump took this decision that he is going to pull back 2,000 soldiers that are the American soldiers. They are there in Syria. So now you have this team called Rojava. Rojava, you have Syrian Democratic Forces, in which you have Kurdish Arab Assyrian militias, and then you have this people protection units, and all these various different players are there in this Rojava. So when this USA is going out of here, then Turkey will tighten, or Turkey may attack this Kurdish people, and you know, so this is the reason why the name is that abandoned on the battlefield. We have talked about it, so I'm not going into details. But if you want to know more about Kurdish people, their history, then a year ago I delivered a lecture both in English and Hindi on Kurdish referendum. You can check that one. I have covered the full history of the most important bits of history of Kurdish people. How from last so many years they are suffering from, you know, they are being persecuted here, and the post-Ottoman boundaries were redrawn, and then this Kurdish were split among 4 countries: Turkey, Syria, Iraq and Iran. And Kurdish referendum took place, and Turkey is a bit worried that they have to give away a bit of land, and Turkey has declared this Kurdish team as terrorists. So problems are there in this region, and we don't want at least ISIS to come back or resurrect. So that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. Now, the shape of growth matters, right? This one is about Mozart and Titan, and this one is not important. It's a statement, political statement by Imran Khan. So you can ignore that. It's not important, though he's talking about India, but that's not important if you go through it. Now, the shape of growth matters. This one is about strategy for new India at 75. Let's quickly go through it. What this article is trying to tell us is, you know, the Planning Commission. This article is written by a person who was a member of Planning Commission. And he's talking about a few good points, like Niti Aayog in its the strategy for new India at 75 as you know, emphasized on implementation of policies and service delivery. We know that this is the only thing that is missing in our country. We have good policies, but we find lack of implementation. Now, Niti Aayog has also talked about this inclusive, sustained, clean and formalized economy. It has said that even if we achieve 9 to 10% GDP growth rate or double-digit growth rate, but if it is not creating jobs, then that's not a joy for citizens. Let's talk about labor-intensive industries if you want to create jobs, which is quite easy to understand. It has talked about widening tax base, right, rather than this shape. What we need is this shape. That means a few people paying high taxes. We don't need that. What we need is many people paying lower amount of taxes. So we need to widen the tax base. small industries cannot bear the burden of excessive formalization. So this is something that Niti Aayog has identified. And nowadays, what we find even in big companies, right, things are getting more and more informal. Like rather than hiring someone on permanent basis, people are being hired in developed countries, right? They are hiring on contracts and things. So flexibility is the need of the hour, or flexibility is something that is trending at present. So in our country, we have this flexibility when it comes to small industry. So this is an opportunity for us to grab. So we need to work on that. And then we have to provide social security systems for various different citizens. Like say, for example, someone is looking for a job at present, someone was working, but now that person is looking for a job. So if he or she is not doing anything from time being, if that person is genuinely looking for something, then we need to provide them some sort of social security. And last but not the least, that the shape of the development process matters more to people than the size of the GDP. That means the quality of development, right? GDP growth alone is not enough. We need to see development and people's holistic growth. Moving on to news items, NIA busts ISIS type module in Delhi. Golfer Jyoti Randhawa is held for poaching charge. Another olive Ridley turtle nesting site soon. Sex workers and lawyers seek to amend language of anti-trafficking bill, and Nepal caps expenditure of its citizens in India. Now, dear friends, we have this important news that Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, they are going to have separate high courts. So Telangana's high court will be in Hyderabad and Andhra Pradesh will be in Amravati. So Article 241, what it is all about, go through it. This is, President Ramnath Kovindji notified this thing, that bifurcation of this Hyderabad High Court. Kin of Gauri Pansare to oppose CBI probe, and Russia successfully tests hypersonic missile. These are your vocabs. Yesterday's map-based question answer is Morocco, capital is Rabat, and today's answer is here on your screen. You can download the PDF of today's lecture from my FB page and Twitter handle. And dear friends, now let me talk about the most important update that we are going to see from the 1st of January 2019. And the update is that, dear friends, we are going to have a new faculty, right? The new faculty, he is going to take the Hindu English and the Hindu Hindi. And my job, I'm a bit promoted, so I would be looking after more management and things like that, right? So it's an upgrade for me, and of course I do understand that for so many of you, right, it's going to be a bit difficult, this change, because I've been teaching you since 1.5 year now, nearly 1.5 year, but I'm always there, right? I want to be taking lectures, or I want to be conversing with you on regular basis via this lecture series, but I'll always be there. I'll be there behind, in all the works that we do. So I have to learn new skills as well. It's a promotion for me, and it's a new opportunity for new faculty. And I'm sure, right, quality means you're going to find something more, and it's going to get better and better, trust me. So right, so that's the most important thing that I thought I should share with you guys. So I'm sure you are going to support new faculty. You will support new faculty, because you guys are, I have experimented this thing, and I know this thing, that you are, very change adaptive. You people are you're ready for change, and you have this capacity to accept change, and change is something that we have to accept in our life if we want to grow. That's what I think. So that's everything in today's discussion, and do make sure that you share this lecture with other students, and don't forget to hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion. Thank you very much for your love, for your support, and I will see you tomorrow, right? My last lecture will be on 31st December 2018. So I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Jai Hind.